Picture this. You get an 88 on a brutal test. You worked hard, you're proud of it, and you put the paper into your folder feeling pretty good. Then the person next to you leans over and says, I got a 96. And suddenly, your 88 doesn't feel quite as good anymore. But nothing about your grade changed. The only thing that changed was finding out someone else's. Welcome back to Mind Quarters. I'm Kelly Mara, and today we're talking about competitiveness. I actually really like competitive people. I like people who care, work hard, and want to do well. I don't think the answer is to stop caring or somehow become less competitive. But every once in a while, I think it's worth asking ourselves, do I like the person I'm becoming when I'm competing? Because competition isn't just on a field or a court. It's everywhere. You audition for the musical and your friend gets the lead. You're happy for them, but there's also a part of you thinking, I really wanted that. That's okay. You don't have to pretend you're thrilled. Maybe someone else makes the team, someone gets first chair in band, someone gets selected for something you wanted. And then there are all the other things that aren't official competitions at all. Who has more friends? Who got invited? Who got more likes? We can turn almost anything into a contest if we're not careful. And I think there's a pretty big difference between wanting to do well and needing to do better than somebody else. Because when somebody else becomes your scoreboard, it's really hard to ever feel satisfied. There's always going to be somebody with a higher grade, somebody who scores more, somebody who gets the part or makes the team. And sometimes you can tell competitiveness is getting the best of you simply by noticing how you're acting. You're annoyed with the person who got the part. You're picking apart all of the reasons someone else shouldn't have made the team. Someone tells you something great that happened to them, and before they've even finished, you're mentally comparing it to something you've done. We've probably all done some version of that. But if you're spending more time thinking about what somebody else is doing than what you're doing, that's probably a good time to catch yourself. For me as an adult, my sport really became yoga. And yoga gave me a completely different way of looking at competition. I could be in a room full of people doing the exact same posture, and believe me, it can be very tempting to look at the person next to you. Maybe they're stronger. Maybe they're doing something that you're nowhere close to doing. But eventually you realize their practice really doesn't have anything to do with yours. For me, the challenge became much more about myself. Could I get stronger? Could I focus a little better? Could I stay with something even when it got difficult? And some days, honestly, the practice wasn't going to be better than the day before. Maybe I was tired. Maybe my balance was off. That's part of it too. And I think we can take some of that idea outside of yoga. You got an 88? Okay. How does that compare with how you've been doing? You didn't make the team? Ask the coach what you can work on before the next tryout. Your friend accomplished something great? Good for them. Actually, that's your mental rep for this week. Practice saying, good for them. Someone gets the grade you wanted? Good for them. Someone gets the part? Good for them. Someone makes the team? Good for them. And here's the important part. You might not completely mean it at first. That's okay. You're not pretending that you're not disappointed. You're not trying to convince yourself that you didn't want the grade or the part or the spot on the team. You're practicing letting someone else's good moment belong to them without immediately making it about you. And there's actually research behind this. Researchers looking at how kids and teenagers manage emotions have found that even by around age 10, kids can change how strongly they feel about something by practicing a different way of thinking about it. Psychologists call this cognitive reappraisal, but really it just means catching that first automatic thought and trying another way of looking at it. So let's go back to that test. Your first thought might be, they got a 96. Now my 88 doesn't seem very good. Catch it. Good for them. I worked hard for my 88. You may not completely believe the good for them part yet. That's okay. You're not trying to magically make jealousy disappear. You're interrupting what can become a pretty automatic pattern. They did well, I compare myself, and now I feel worse about what I did. Instead, you're practicing a different response. They did well, good for them. And then bring your attention back to what you're doing. It sounds almost too simple, but try it. And parents do this too. I know we do. We can get competitive about grades, teams, auditions, schools, colleges, and awards, sometimes about things our kids aren't even particularly competitive about themselves. And it makes sense. We're invested in our kids. We know how hard they work, we see their potential, and we want good things for them. But I think we have to occasionally ask ourselves the same question. Do I like the person I become when I'm competitive about my child? Maybe another child gets the lead, a higher grade, or more playing time, and now you're annoyed with that child or their parent. Maybe you find yourself questioning the coach, the teacher, or director because you don't like an outcome. Maybe you're talking negatively about another kid. That's probably a good place to catch yourself because that kid didn't make the decision. The player didn't make the lineup, the student didn't assign the grades, and the kid who got the lead didn't cast the musical. And sometimes we introduce comparison in much smaller ways without even realizing we're doing it. Your child comes home with an 88 and feels pretty good about it. And we say, what did everyone else get? Now they're thinking about the 96. They weren't thinking about the 96 before. We were. And I think that's really worth paying attention to. Our kids hear how we talk about other kids. They see how we react when someone else gets something they wanted. And whether we mean to or not, we're showing them how to handle competition. So I'm definitely not suggesting that we stop being competitive. There's nothing wrong with wanting to win, wanting the part, trying to make the team, or working really hard for a grade. And there's certainly nothing wrong with wanting great things for your kids. Just pay attention to when that competitiveness stops helping you. And maybe this week start with something really small. The next time someone gets the 96, good for them. You can still be proud of your 88. Put your paper back in your folder and get back to what you were doing. That's your mental rep for this week. This is Mind Quarters, and your mind is your greatest strength.